Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Gainesville meeting at the Cade Museum. If you're watching on YouTube, please register your participation by sending an email to info@rotarygainesville.org. And at this time, please remember to silence your cell phones. And now for our song and pledge, please welcome Pete Enwall to the podium.
Today we're celebrating Veterans Day, so happy Veterans Day. But I just had a question. Do any of you have children that are no longer young children that still live in the house? Raise your hand. Okay, so if you really want to get back at them, you could run into their room at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, "Can we open my Father's Day present now?" Okay. Today's a special day, and so Gordon has had a family emergency, so we're going to sing without a piano, but we're going to sing God Bless America, because everybody should know that one. God bless America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. You guys did really well without a piano. Great, good job. Okay. And we're going to pledge allegiance to the flag, but we don't. Oh, there it is. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pete. And now for our invocation, Lori Vidal.
Thank you, David. All right, let's do it. Let's pray together. As we enter into this season of Thanksgiving in November, it is time again for us to celebrate the many blessings we have received in our lives. As we gather today, we ask for a blessing from you to give us hearts of thanksgiving. Help us to elevate our view of life, to see the richness of what we have and the sacrifices that have been made by others to put us in the position to be blessed. We especially today want to give thanks to the veterans, the military, who have given of their lives to provide and protect the blessing we have of living in this incredible nation. For our veterans and our military, we offer a prayer of thanksgiving for their service and for providing continually the protection of our liberties we are blessed with. We thankfully make our prayer to you, our great protector. Amen.
Thank you, Lori. You may be seated. But if you're a guest or visiting Rotarian, please remain standing to be introduced. Someone will be bringing the microphone around now.
Fellow Rotarians, I have 3 guests. One is a personal guest from Michigan, Jerry Cowan. The other 2 are our speakers today, what we call the 2 Toms. Oops, my mic went. Tom Capella and Tom Wisniewski. And you'll be seeing them later. Thank you.
Jan Legler with Rotary, volunteer with the Rotary Youth Exchange, and I would like to welcome Amelia Davidson, who is our student candidate to go abroad, and her mother, Catherine Crummer. And Amelia's from Buchholz High School.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I'm happy to have at lunch with us today Julie DeCarmine, the new Director of Marketing for the Cade Museum.
Welcome, everyone. We're pleased to have you with us today. And now, since it's the first meeting of the month, we're going to recognize November birthdays. So if you're present, please bring your dollar to President Linda. And as a reminder, these dollars go towards the Reading Safari program that we sponsor. The birthdays for the month of November: Dalton Baker, Don Bugos, Ken Cornell, George Emmel, Sam Fragel, Sam Goforth, Helen Gilstrom, who's celebrating her birthday today, Sam Holloway, Guy Joplin, Linda Kaplan, John Kelly, Parker Lawrence, Jane Moraski, Sarah Owen, Jeannie Singer, Kirk Smith, Kim Tanzer, Maureen Tartaglione, Kevin Thorpe, Lori Vidal, Philip Waite, and Tim Warfall. Happy birthday. Now welcome Pete back to the podium for a round of happy birthday.
Okay, we have to sing Acapulco again. So with gusto, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, fellow Rotarians, happy birthday to you. And as Charlie Page would say, and many more.
Thank you, Pete. Now for our first announcement, please welcome Elena Fraser to the podium.
Okay, fellow Rotarians, our annual Rotary auction is coming up. It's less than a month away, December the 5th. We're still looking for silent auction items, new items that are worth $75 or more, and we're looking for live auction items that are worth $1,000 or more. Vacation home's always a hit, fun experiences, all those wonderful things. We have gotten some great items already. I'm going to send out a list of those so that everybody can see what we've already gotten. We are doing the Africa trip again. Wonderful Jan has been. It's a wonderful experience. Ed Ellett, if he's here, I think he's fishing today. Oh, no, there he is. There he is. Okay. He's going to do a fishing trip for us again, and there are beach houses, all kinds of things. So don't forget, December the 5th. And if you have items for me, please get them to us by the 21st, that way of November. So that's 2 weeks from now. That way I can recognize you and make sure that we get you on all of our lists and all that kind of good stuff. And remember how important the auction is as well. And the kids that we're supporting over in Cambodia. And also the important thing to remember too is that this program was started by this club. And everyone that helps out in the U.S., we're all volunteers. So every dollar that you spend at the auction goes to a project. So anyway, don't forget, December 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Next up, John Thomas.
Thank you, Colleen. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. On November 28th, we'll be having our elections for Board of Director and Secretary. So on everybody's table is this form for suggestions for Board of Director and Secretary. And on the back, there's a little rubric back here. To be nominated for Secretary, you have to be on the board within the last 5 years. And so these are our board members for the last 5 years. And to be on the Board of Directors, you can't have served within the last 2 years. So I've marked those off in yellow. So if you have any questions about the process or about being on the board, come see me. And we'll also send this out via DACDB so everybody has it that's on attendance today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. And now Dwight McKee.
Good afternoon, everybody. Seafood Spectacular. Here we go. We got a lot of things going on next month and a half. We got auction on the 5th. We got seafood on the 7th of December. So make sure you get your tickets. $60 a piece, 5 for $250. Also on the table, we've put sign-up sheets for help. If you'd like to help at the event, We're looking for the night of the event, kitchen help, food prep, bar help, ticket takers, all sorts of things. So if you can just put your name and email address here for me, that'd be great, and I'll reach out to you. Again, the event is Thursday, December 7th, and we have 2 cleanup dates out at Hatchet Creek, Saturday, November 18th, and Saturday, December 2nd. And the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is just sponsorship. We have little mini sponsorships. If you'd like to partake in that and get some tickets and little sponsorship help would be great. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dwight. And next up on our agenda is a craft talk introduced by Parker Lawrence.
Thank you very much, Colleen. Today, it's my privilege to introduce to the club Linda Kaplan. Linda is an attorney in South Florida who specializes in immigration law from her office in Miami. I've known Linda since I left active duty Navy. I won't say what year that was, but I made my first trip to Miami after having seen the Philippines to visit my future wife, Mayla, and turns out Linda was a good friend of Mayla, and she has been ever since. Linda has moved here thanks to the miracle of modern communications that she still has her office in Miami. And I'm happy to say she's now seeing Mayla and taking her to the gym on regular trips. So that's a good benefit. She's no stranger to Gainesville. She's gotten 2 degrees from the University of Florida, along with 1 from NYU. And she's been in Rotary for some time. She was president of the Rotary Club of South Miami in 2004, I believe. So it's my pleasure to introduce Linda and let her tell you a little more about herself.
Good morning. I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. I've been really impressed. The first meeting I went to here was a recap of everything you've done over the last year. And it was such a wonderful introduction to the club, and I look forward to meeting and participating with you on these. As Parker said, his wife and I have been friends for I won't say how many years, and I was born in Miami, but I didn't really grow up there because my father re-enlisted in the military when I was 9 weeks old. So we traveled around. I lived in Japan when I was 3. We moved to Germany when I think I was 6. And then we got to live in wonderful places like Leesville, Louisiana, and Killeen, Texas. After going to law school here, I went to NYU and got a LLM in tax law, and then went back to Miami and was hired by a law firm that represented mostly foreign investors. So, and they were tax attorneys, so I was elected to learn immigration law. And so I got into the immigration law from the business standpoint. So I do a lot of representation in multinational corporations, professional visas like the university might hire, and investor visas, which puts my tax background to use. I have 3 children. I have 2 techie sons, one who works for Amazon out in the Seattle area, and one who works for Target in the Denver area. My daughter is more like me and not a techie. And she was living in South Florida, and when I decided to move to Gainesville, she says, yeah, I'll go too. So I had to buy a little bit bigger house, so I'm here. thanks to technology, I can still handle my practice from here with no problem. Some of the corporate clients I haven't met them in person in 20 years. You know, because the petitions are not even filed, the business petitions are not even filed in Florida. The business petitions are filed in Texas, California, Vermont, and Nebraska, of all places. And then once I get them approved, then I send the clients to the foreign consulate for their interviews. So I don't go to the interviews with them. And am I out of time? Okay.
Thank you, Linda. We're so happy to have you a part of our club. And now, please help me welcome our president, Linda Reinhardt.
Linda, in honor of doing your craft talk today, we do have a plaque for you for your four-way test. So if you would like to come back up and receive that. Okay. I'm not sure how many club members have heard this. We did lose a member of our club last week, Jonathan Mark Turner. He was an attorney and died unexpectedly last week. He leaves behind a wife and 3 young children. They have set up a fund for an education fund for his children, and we'll be sending out the link if anybody is interested in donating, but I would ask that you join me in a moment in silence and recognition for Jonathan and his family. Thank you. Moving on to positive news, we do have a couple of milestone anniversaries for some of our club members. We have 3 club members who, as of this month, will have been in the club for more than 40 years. Chip Emmel, I don't know if Chip's here, he's got 40 years in the club. Doug Thompson has 42 years. And Joe Anderson, 44 years as members of our clubs. That's good. Okay. And the last bit of news that I have is I haven't seen her here. Karen Sandlin has been coming as a guest. She was a former member, and the board approved to reinstate her membership. So she is now, again, officially a new member of our club. So we're glad to have Karen back in our fold as well. With that, I'm going to bring up Margaret Combs to introduce our speakers today.
We have a tradition that we've done for many years, and we're going to do it a little differently today. Unfortunately, while he was prepared to do this with us, Gordon is unable to be here. But one of the things we start out our Veterans Day program with is a recognition of those that have served. But we're going to do it a little differently this year. I'm going to ask everyone in the room to stand. Then, as bless his heart, he stepped in and found the music. As Brandon plays the music of that branch of service, if you have served in that branch, you're invited to sit down, so that by the time we've finished all 5 branches, then all of those that have served will be seated and the rest of us standing, and we'll offer a standing ovation to those who have given of their lives to us. Can we start out? Are you ready, Brandon? Everyone stand, please. And the first song. Army. Okay, next. Navy. Next, Air Force. Marine Corps. Hoorah. There we go.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of
And Coast Guard.
we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to cling
The Marines got their whole hymn played. You're doing great. Coast Guard. Okay. Brendan, thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, let's applaud those who have served. Thank you so much, and thank you to all of you who have served us so well. We are so fortunate, and we celebrate this week, all week really, Veterans Day, a time when we remember those who have given so much for us. But we thought we'd do something a little different today. In 2009, this club began to raise funds to partner with the Fisher House Foundation to build a Fisher House at the Malcolm Randall Veterans Hospital. Now, as the largest or one of the largest veterans hospitals in the United States, it had no Fisher House where the families of hospitalized veterans could stay. Well, this club, and then joined by the other clubs, we raised over $1 million. That money was matched by the Cade Foundation, and it's so appropriate that we are here today. And then that was matched by the Fisher House Foundation. And in 2014, the Fisher House was opened, and I hope you have all seen it and are all aware of it and how fortunate we are to have it. Well, in thinking about that, we've really not done much in the consideration of this huge facility that is such an important part of our community. The Veterans Hospital here serves not only North Central, North Florida, but South Georgia, and is a huge contributor to this community. And so today, we're going to hear from two of the former directors. Some of you may know them. Pete, you're going to, where did Pete go? There he is. Would you like to come up and introduce our first speaker?
Hello. Testing. Yep. And yep. Okay. Fellow Rotarians, it's my honor to introduce this gentleman to you. The introduction is a bit longer than we're used to, but the reason is because this guy's really a big deal. And so my pleasure to introduce Tom Capella to you. Tom has served a 40-year career with the VA, started out as a clinical social worker, and most recently as director of the North Florida South Georgia Veterans Health System, the largest in the VA system, with 150,000 veterans and $1 billion budget. Previously, Tom served as director of the Atlanta VA and acting director, network director of VSN7, which is an organization associated with the VA. He served as the director of the VA Pittsburgh and he integrated and consolidated 3 VA centers into one healthcare system. This integration that he organized was among the most successful in the VA system, resulting in a reduced budget, more patients served, and an increased number of clinical personnel. He's been a healthcare consultant and executive coach since 2012, conducting organizational assessments, developing strategic plans for healthcare organizations, and assisting in the development of hospital budget plans. And he's been an executive coach for several VA directors. Would you please welcome Tom to the podium with a round of applause.
And joining Tom, whoops, I got a little close there, will be Tom Wisniewski. Now, when Tom retired from the local Veterans Hospital Administration and that big title that we just heard, he was replaced by another Tom Wisniewski. And again, a gentleman with a great deal of experience and background. He was previously the director of the Gulf Coast Veterans Healthcare and was heavily involved in the work it took to regenerate those after Hurricane Katrina. And then again with other issues around both Katrina and Rita. He began his career with a master's degree in public administration from the University of New York and distinguished himself throughout the Veterans Administration. He received numerous awards both from the VA system, including a leadership award given to him by the Chamber of Commerce of the Gainesville area in 2021. And I'm going to hand him this microphone, I hope. Yes, I am. And I'm going to turn it over to the two Toms.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, Tom. It's a real pleasure to be here today and to talk about the VA and specifically the Malcolm Randall VA here in Gainesville. You know, this Rotary Club's been a big supporter of the VA for many years.
It certainly is a pleasure to be here with you today, especially since on Saturday our nation will honor the service and sacrifice of veterans throughout our history. So we have a number of interesting, some information for you and interesting facts, many things that we're sure that you may not know about the Malcolm Randall VA. So, Tom, how did a VA come to be built in Gainesville?
Good question. It actually opened in October of '67. Malcolm Randall, the namesake for the health system, was a disabled Navy veteran, and he was the first director of the Gainesville VA, and he served in that capacity for almost 40 years. He was a very active and prominent member of this very Rotary Club. And by the way, his Cadillac license plate read Mr. VA. He passed away in 2008. I was honored to be a pallbearer at his funeral. But the story of the VA is that it was actually Harry Truman initially approved the establishment of the VA here in Gainesville in 1945. But however, later that year, the authorization was canceled. And it wasn't until 1961 that John Kennedy actually passed the authorization to build a VA hospital here in Gainesville. It was initially supposed to be built on a large tract of land off University Avenue, but Malcolm Randall himself intervened and made sure that the hospital would be built adjacent to the medical school, which was a very wise decision. But it did open finally in 1967. The staff at the hospital was 660 people. We had a full complement of 25 doctors. and the budget was about $5 million. And I think people, by the end of this talk, will learn that things have changed a lot. But with the 80s came big changes, and it was a busy time at the hospital. There was a $5.3 million nursing home care unit added at that time, expansion of radiology, the installation of an MRI, underground MRI, which is one of the first in the VA at the time. And then in the 90s, there were even more change as the Gainesville VA was integrated with the Lake City VA, and it became the North Florida, South Georgia VA healthcare system. Is now one of the largest in the VA. And in the last 10 years, we've seen even more growth with large renovation of the cardiac cath lab, which allows for procedures that weren't able to be done before. A beautiful $250 million bed tower that provides veterans a more private and focused level of care. And then an establishment of a opiate and pain management program, one of the first in the VA. And we don't want to forget the beautiful Fisher House that also was built during that period. So anyways, Tom, when I retired around 11 years ago, our budget was almost $1 billion. I wonder how much it is today.
It certainly has grown. And so today, Malcolm Randall employs, just in the Gainesville area, 3,400 what we call FTE, which are full-time employee equivalents. And they contribute $1.1 billion to our local economy. So the North Florida, South Georgia healthcare system, of which Malcolm Randall is the flagship, operates with an annual budget of $1.9 billion. And most of our employees are physicians, dentists, nurses, psychologists, PhDs, pharmacists, therapists, social workers, medical technologists, and technicians.
Yeah, I thought you said billion with a B, right? Is that?
B,
wow.
yes. Yeah,
Wow.
B.
Okay, so when I retired, we also were treating about 130,000 veterans, and we had, I think, about 5,000 employees. I wonder what those numbers are today.
So again, it has grown. The VA has what's called 5 levels of complexity for their hospitals and their healthcare system. And so Malcolm Randall in North Florida, South Georgia, services what's called a catchment area of 50 counties. There's 31 in Florida and 19 in South Georgia. And it's almost an area that's as large as South Carolina. And so in the last fiscal year, which was concluded on September 30th, they served 155,151 veterans. And so it's the largest VA healthcare system in the country. And it under the complexity classification, it is the most complex of all the VA medical centers in the country. And so there's 180,000 veterans that are enrolled for care, so that those veterans that are all enrolled for care could potentially come and get care there.
So, Tom, when I was director, we had a lot of clinics throughout the area. I used to kid that we served veterans from the villages in the south to Valdosta in the north, from Mariana, which is in another time zone, on the west, and I used to say, thank God for the Atlantic Ocean. So what's the status of the system today?
So as you mentioned, Tom, North Florida, South Georgia does have a very, very large catchment area. And just in our local community, at one point, we were one of the largest lessors in Gainesville. In 2023, we opened a new wellness center down on Williston Road in the 34th Street. And it has 2 large clinics. One is about 71,000, which is a primary care clinic, and another which is about 40,000 square feet, and that's a mental health clinic. And in the primary care clinic, they offer a number of services, number of what's called wellness services, and comprehensive primary care, pharmacy consultation, women's health, social work. There's a laboratory there, and some imaging services. And the mental health clinic offers general and specialized mental health treatment, PTSD treatment, substance abuse, and intensive case management, suicide prevention initiatives, and PTSD treatments. They operate a 45-bed domiciliary in southeast Gainesville, providing residential care for veterans who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. And those patients that are in that program receive therapy and support through a variety of different programs that are built and established to help them get better and get out on their own in their lives. So, another interesting fact is that, did you know that the Veterans Administration has 4 defined missions as mandated by Congress? And can anyone guess what they might be?
Well, I think for one would be health care.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then education is also another mission. You know, the center here has 30 academic affiliation agreements with the University of Florida, Florida State, Santa Fe College, St. Leo University, contribute to the continuing education of students in the clinical and administrative areas. Some of the areas are health administration, public health, medicine, psychology, pharmacy, nursing, information technology. Approximately 2,000 students receive training at the Malcolm Randall VA each year. And we also have a robust residency program with the College of Medicine and University of Central Florida and the U.S. Navy. And we support some 700 residents, or help to support some 700 residents that rotate through those facilities. And by the way, Tom, I was a VA resident in social work and health administration during my career, so I personally benefited from the VA education mission.
Very good. So another one of those mandated missions is research. And so throughout VA's long history, employees have had the space and support they need to pursue new and innovative approaches to medicine. VA often leads the way with medical breakthroughs that benefits veterans and citizens of the United States and around the world. From the pacemaker to the CT scan, many groundbreaking treatments and procedures and diagnostic tools can trace their origins back to the VA. At least 3 VA employees have received the Nobel Prize for Medicine. The discovery of the radio immune assay so profoundly changed our ability to detect minuscule amounts of hormones and substances in the blood that it earned Dr. Rosalind Yalow a Nobel Prize. Working with another VA physician, Dr. Solomon Burson at the Bronx VA Medical Center. Another VA employee, Dr. Scali, received the Nobel Prize for Medicine for his discoveries concerning the peptide hormone production in the brain. And Tom, an interesting fact is that I remember evacuating Dr. Scali from the New Orleans VA Medical Center during Hurricane Katrina. He does his research work now at the Miami VA. And the third physician was Dr. Farid Murad, who received the Nobel Prize for his discoveries relating to nitric acid.
Yeah, VA research is also responsible for many other discoveries that have really transformed modern medicine. I don't know if you knew this, but the first modern blood testing machine that can run as many as 20 tests at once was discovered in the VA by a biomedical engineer in Cleveland who I once met. And this machine actually works. It's not like Elizabeth Holmes' machine. Also, the science behind the CAT scanner was discovered in the VA. And did you know the first liver transplants were performed in the VA by Dr. Thomas Starzl? He was on staff at Pittsburgh when I was director there. And while he was at Pittsburgh, his maybe even more important discovery was he discovered the anti-rejection drugs that transformed really the transplant community, because prior to that, patients were rejecting the organs and dying, and now it's rare actually when patients reject their organs, so due to that discovery.
The accomplishments of Dr. Michael DeBakey could fill this entire presentation. He's called the father of modern cardiovascular surgery. He performed the first coronary bypass, was the first to use a partial artificial heart, and supervised the first multi-organ transplant procedure. He served for 55 years at the Houston VA, and the Houston VA now bears his name. He's recognized for that. Dr. William Oldendorf conducted research that laid the groundwork for nuclear imaging and technologies like the CAT scan and MRI. Other discoveries by VA employees, for example, are pacemakers. There are about 3 million people worldwide who have a pacemaker, and every year there's about 600 patients receive pacemakers, implanted pacemakers. And they're a life-saving device invented by the VA researchers at the Buffalo VA Medical Center. Some other discoveries are hypertension treatments, PTSD treatments, a standing wheelchair, barcode medication administration, and the first electronic medical record. Barcode medication administration was conceived by a nurse who drove through a toll booth and thought that it could have application for the scanning of a medication before it's given to a patient. And so in the mid-70s, a number of physicians, researchers, and techies thought that they could use computers to better serve and better treat patients. And so they invented and wrote the code that became the first electronic medical record. And electronic medical records are now in use in approximately 90% of this country's medical centers. The fourth mission is emergency management. And so in times of national emergency, terrorism, hurricanes, state, local emergencies, the VA provides support to, on a national basis and also in the local communities. And so during hurricanes Irma and Idalia and Ian, the Malcolm Randall facility took in patients from the Bay Pines VA because Bay Pines, if you haven't been there, it's beautiful, it's on the water, but when a hurricane comes, it has to be evacuated. And so they took in a number of patients during those hurricanes. When COVID-19 hit, Malcolm Randall immediately jumped into action and did a number of things. We studied treatments and therapies. We were involved in the Johnson & Johnson clinical trials. We were also involved in monoclonal antibody trials. We also put together work assistance teams, which consisted of a clinician, nurses, therapists, and nursing aides. It was a team of either 5 or 6 individuals that were placed to assist private sector nursing homes and throughout the Gainesville area and North Florida and up in the Panhandle. And these teams worked for months. We had 10, at Malcolm Randall, we had 10 teams that would go out for about a 2-week period into these nursing homes to help teach about infection control procedures and how to set up COVID treatment areas so that COVID didn't spread. We also assisted the state of Florida with 3 of their state veterans nursing homes, one in Lake City, one in St. Augustine, and one in Panama City, doing the same thing and taking their patients and admitting their patients at Malcolm Randall and at Lake City when they developed COVID.
So Tom, I'm going to skip ahead, and because I know this is a subject very dear to the hearts of the people here, and that is the Fisher House Foundation. How active is it today? I know a lot of our Rotarians are on the board, and This group here today was instrumental in raising the funds necessary to build the Fisher House.
So we thank you for your efforts to do that, and many of the families that have gone, most of the families that have come through the Fisher House are grateful as well. So prior to COVID, it was the most active Fisher House in the country. And the percentage of occupancy was up in the high 90%. So for fiscal year 23, which is concluded in September, the statistics are that was an occupancy rate of 86%. The families accommodated was 830. Individuals accommodated was 988. And the average length of stay was 33 days. And one interesting story that happened in fiscal year 2023, there was an active duty serviceman who was in Belgium, and his daughter developed cardiac issues. And she was medevaced from Europe to Shands to the pediatric center. And while she was here, it was determined that she needed to have a heart transplant. And so luckily, a donor was found. She was transplanted, and she's doing very well. So the family was able to stay at the Fisher House for over 100 days during this process. And her father has now been transferred from Europe to the Jacksonville Naval Station, so he's able to be close to his young daughter while she recovers. So it's a tremendous asset for all of the families that come for care at Malcolm Randall, and also for the patients, because it gives them ease of mind.
Well, you know, Tom, we could go on and on because we have about 16 more pages of this thing to read, but in the sake of time, what I think would, one of the things I learned today is that the VA has only gotten bigger and better since my retirement. And I think now's a good time to see if there's any questions from the audience.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the presentation. You mentioned that the VA has a facility for homeless vets. And I was wondering if you had any information or data on the number of homeless vets that are in our Gainesville metropolitan area that could benefit from some sort of facility other than, and I'm sure yours is full, but is there any plan or idea for an additional facility for vets that are still?
That's a very, very good question, because another program that the VA has is called HUD-VASH, which is a partnership with Housing and Urban Development. And within our catchment area, North Florida, South Georgia has about 2,000 housing vouchers. And those housing vouchers are given to homeless veterans if they meet the criteria for temporary housing. And within the Gainesville area in Alachua County, I think the number of vouchers provided is about 850. And so that's about 2,000 vouchers across our catchment area that are used for homeless veterans and their families to be housed, and those that are at risk of being homeless as well. Very good question. Thank you.
Yes, and 160 some veterans this year alone received permanent housing through that program.
Yeah. My name is Bill Stasewitz, and I used to work at Pizza Hut, but I've been retired for 16 years. In the first 5 years that I was retired, I worked at the VA hospital as a volunteer driver, which I took those vets that came from Mariana and the Jacksonville and the villages to local vendors, because they weren't all served for their appointments at the different, at VA hospital. They went to the pain clinic out on Archer Road, and et cetera, et cetera. And I just wanted to say that the only complaint the veterans ever had, none of them ever complained about the treatment that they received. The only complaint they had was to get the appointments. And I hear a lot of negative stuff in the news about the VA hospital. And these guys, and again, for 5 years, I worked every Monday and every other Friday taking vets to their appointments. And so you guys have done a good job of that, and I know you struggle with those appointments.
So access to care is difficult, I think, not only for our system, but for others as well. And to have a great healthcare system, you have to have the ability for patients to get in. So one of the things that Congress did was pass legislation called the CHOICE Act. And in that CHOICE Act, there's mandates about timeliness to get in for an appointment. So within, if you can't get a primary care appointment within 14 days, or if you can't get into specialty care within 28 days, you have the ability to go into the community and get an appointment. And so some patients take that opportunity, and others wait so that they can get into the VA healthcare system. And I know that through Tom's tenure and mine, and I'm sure now that the staff work very, very hard to get patients in to be seen. One of the things that happened to assist with that was the introduction of telehealth. And telehealth was used a little bit, but then when COVID came, it just exploded. And we went from about a percentage of about 2% of the veterans using telehealth services to about 36, 37%. And they were getting their appointments via your mobile devices.
Quick question as we are finishing. How does the United States Veterans Administration stack up in caring for their veterans on an international basis? What is the level of care in other countries?
So that's a great question, and I, during my tenure in the VA, we had people come from all different countries to see how we delivered care. Very few countries have a dedicated healthcare system for veterans, and so I don't know of any that even begins to approximate what we do here in the United States.
Great. Thank you guys for being here today. We will be making a donation to the Bread of the Mighty Food Bank in honor of you being here today speaking, as well as in honor of our veterans that have served. So thank you again very much for sharing that information with us today. Next week, this may be one of those questionable acts that you guys decide whether or not you want to keep me around in charge. But our speaker next week is our very own John Gregory, who will be sharing with us a little bit about the history of our club. So we're looking forward to having John at the mic for the entire presentation next week. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if he's planning on doing it all in prose or not, but we'll find out. Quote of the day: as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. And that's John F. Kennedy. And the drawing for today, Rotary Reading Safari drawing. Ooh, lucky number 555. Ooh, 555. Meeting is adjourned, guys.